And good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to another live Art Business Academy Q&A session. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020. We're well into August now. It's good to be here with you. I'll just quickly, by way of announcements, let me get our screen up here. There will be no broadcast next Friday. I have to head down to Phoenix for a quick trip. Our daughter, Mikkel, who many of you met last year in the Art Gallery Insider, as we talked about her working in the gallery here, has been working in the gallery down in Scottsdale this summer. And she is moving out of the house, which makes me feel like a very old man to have our first child spreading her wings and heading out into the world. So I'm going to be going down and helping her move. And then we've got a project at home. So I'm going to be gone from Friday through, I'll be back in the Pine Top Gallery on Tuesday. So it'll be 2 weeks from now that we have our next broadcast session. So I'll send out a reminder next week that there won't be a broadcast next week, and then we'll be back together 2 weeks. And also, interestingly, we've been doing these online Q&A sessions for a good number of years now. When we first started doing these sessions in the Art Business Academy, I was always worried, well, will I get enough questions? Are there enough questions out there? And you all have never disappointed. We've always had tons of great questions and discussion to have until this week. Sent out the announcement this week, and this week I got a grand total of one question back. So we're going to do it a little bit differently today. And I am going to take that question, and it was a very good question. We're going to cover that. I do want to spend, before I get to the question, I want to spend a few minutes kind of giving some updates on what we're seeing in the art market, kind of what's going on in terms of visitorship and sales. We've had updates in the past as we've kind of been all going through the pandemic and lockdowns and all those kind of things together. I thought it'd be good since we have some extra time today to get caught up on that. And I'll be happy to take questions and discussion about what we're seeing. Then we'll hop into the question, and then we're just going to go free form. And anybody who wants to hop in with some comments or questions can do that. And if we finish early, we finish early today. It'll be the first time, I think, on record that we'll have done that, but we'll just see what happens. So let's jump in and talk about what we've been seeing in the art market. And as I've mentioned in previous sessions, it's been obviously a very interesting time for everyone. All of us are kind of trying to figure out, okay, what's going on in the world? What impact is that having on the art market? I mentioned that in March, April, and into May, we saw a pretty dramatic increase in online sales, and we're ramping up our social media advertising, our email advertising, our outreach to clients, and we definitely saw some positive impact and effect from that. Arizona has had its own particular set of challenges with the current situation. We did kind of start opening back up in May, which led to some problems here and some spikes and some reclosings. We've been able to stay open since then, and it's been kind of interesting to see that traffic it's been slow. But what we're observing both in Scottsdale and in Pine Top is that in spite of the fact that traffic is down, sales have not been down proportionally. In fact, what we're seeing is that we have a higher conversion rate. In other words, more of the people who are coming in are buying something. And we had some interesting sales, especially, well, actually in Pine Top and Scottsdale that I'm going to talk about that I think kind of help give us an indication of maybe why that is and what's going on. So I want to jump in. And first, I want to show just some comparisons, some stats of what we've seen for sales in both Scottsdale and Pine Top. So this is the Scottsdale up above. you can see, and it's got a hard number on there for us, so we can kind of get a sense of where these sales are versus last year. Um, May of last year was almost, or actually a little bit over twice as much as May of this year. So we're down by almost 50% year over year. However, June we were up, and July we were up pretty significantly, which comes as a pretty good surprise to us, to have seen that. And as I say, some of that, especially in May and June, was related to our online efforts. But even in Scottsdale, which is in its slow season, hot temperatures, and a pretty dramatic decrease in the total number of people who are visiting and in town. And yet we saw an increase in sales, which I think bodes well for the art market in general, at least in the short term. That there are a couple of trends that we're, or let me put it this way: we have a couple of hypotheses about what might be happening. One is that we are seeing more local sales. People who typically would be traveling during the summer months in Scottsdale are not. And so they are, taking the opportunity to visit the galleries and are making some purchases. And we've had several people tell us that, normally we budget a certain amount for summer travel, and we're not spending that on travel, so we're spending it on art. Which you will get no complaints from us when you do that. We highly recommend it. You get to take an artistic trip. And so that has been very positive. Let me hop to Pine Top, and kind of the same thing here. Now, this is showing June and July. August, this is just the first few days of August, so we can kind of ignore it. It's not necessarily applicable yet, although you will notice that the top is 2020, the bottom is 2019, and already in August, we are way ahead of both June and July sales, and certainly last year's first few days of August. And I'll talk about a couple of sales that led to that happening. But again, the same thing up here. Traffic is not down too dramatically compared to last year. But again, as those of you who were in the Art Gallery Insider know, that our total traffic in Pine Top, traffic is not our strength up here. We're not having tons and tons of visitors and a flood of people. But again, we see a pretty good conversion rate of the people who do come in making a purchase. And last year, we were seeing a conversion rate of about every 10th person who came in the gallery would end up buying something. And this year, it's closer to every 7th or 8th person who comes into the gallery is making a purchase. And our average ticket is significantly higher than last year. And so those things combined, again, bode fairly well. Now, in Pine Top, it's a little difficult to really call anything a trend, because each and every visit and each and every purchase has such a big impact. So I'm trying not to read too much into that. But at the same time, you can't help but feel positive to see that there is activity out there, and that people are seeking out artwork. And I would say, even in it's a different experience, and maybe a little different mindset, that the people we're seeing are appreciating the art maybe even a little bit more than they would have previously, because of everything that's going on. They're seeking some respite and refuge from the craziness that's going on out in the world there, and seeking to bring some art in. Now, a couple things to talk about in Pine Top, and actually related to Scottsdale as well. Number one is that this year I made a hire in Pine Top. I thought I had an image here. Here we go. Sandy Pendleton, who is actually an Art Business Academy alum, and an artist that we've shown in Pine Top. And she came into the gallery as we were getting ready to start the season up, and she said, "Hey, If you needed someone to just come in and cover for you a day or two here and there, and I'd be happy to volunteer. I said, well, um, we're not a charitable organization and we don't really do volunteership, but man, I would love to have someone that I could rely on to work a few days a week if you'd be interested in that. And we got to talking about it, and sure enough, worked out great. And so she's been working on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and also has some flexibility if I need it, which was what it allows me to go down to Phoenix next week, and it's been awesome. It was a little the first few weeks of June as I had her working was a little bit challenging just because traffic was so quiet. We're learning that people are not really up here and engaged quite as much early in June. And so there was a little bit of thumb twiddling that went on after we got through a bunch of projects and, putting up wall tags and all that kind of stuff. But as we got into July and traffic started picking up, it's been a lot of fun to see Sandy having the opportunity to work with customers here and make some excellent sales. And I wanted to talk about that for just a minute because um, it's interesting to me. I've now been in the business. I'm headed towards 30 years of selling art, and I have learned, and it's interesting that it's still the case that there's just nothing quite as exciting as interacting with someone, talking to them about the artwork, educating them about the artists and the process, guiding them through casual interest to an opportunity to purchase and then closing the sale. I mean, it's just a thrilling, exciting experience to this day. I never tire of that experience. It's very gratifying. I said there's nothing as exciting about that, but I'm going to amend it and say the only thing more exciting than that is seeing my team, the Xanadu team, making sales, because I get more of a thrill almost out of that than I do out of selling the artwork myself. It's fun to see we've created an environment and have such a great staff, both here and down in Scottsdale, that's able to interact with customers and move them through that process and make the purchase. And my phone is set up so that if I'm out of the gallery and a sale occurs, I get a little, and it's a little crude and maybe even vulgar, but I get a little cha-ching sound on my phone, and it's quite a thrill to be out and about, and all of a sudden that phone cha-chings on me, and I get a notice that either Scottsdale or Pine Top has generated a sale. And lately, it's been happening quite frequently. There's been a lot happening, so I want to walk through a couple of those sales. And this first one, you might have seen these on our Pine Top Facebook page. Actually, I'd step back. I don't have photos of put together of the first big sale that Sandy put together about 2.5 weeks ago. She was in the gallery on a Saturday. I'd been in the morning, but then out running some errands, and my phone does its thing, goes off, and up to this point, we'd had a bunch of kind of small sales, $200, $300, $500 sales. And this one rang in at 2,200, and had sold several prints out of the Pine Top Gallery, collage prints, like the ones you see in the lower right here. And so, of course, there was a big celebration for that. That was one of the bigger sales of July. But then this last Saturday, I got a phone call from Sandy. She says, I've got some clients who are here from up from Payson, which is about an hour and a half from here. And they have selected 4 pieces that they're interested in purchasing. And we're wondering if we could work on a better price. I'd offered them about 9% off, was what the number came up to. The client had countered with a request for discount that was about 18% off. And Sandy asked me, what can I do? Where can we meet in the middle somewhere? And my response was that, well, at 4 pieces, including 2 rather significantly priced pieces, we can certainly work with the client. Let's give them a number that's 15% off the retail value. To which the client responded in the affirmative, and the sale was made. And it just so happened that I was going to be headed back by the gallery, and Sandy said, "Hey, I could use some help wrapping up the artwork." This is kind of interesting too. That I noticed this. Well, actually, I was going to say it's with when someone's newly working with us and there's a big sale. But even in Scottsdale with some of my team down there that is well established and has sold a lot of artwork, when you get a number of pieces selling, you start to get some adrenaline pumping, and it's not impossible to get just a little bit flustered in the logistics of the process. And so it worked out well that I was already headed to the gallery and was able to hop in, and I am very good. I'll toot my own horn. I'm really good at wrapping things up in bubble wrap. I've had a lot of experience with that over the years, and I could do it very quickly and have it look very professional, and was then able to help the client put the artwork in the car. It was fun for me to get to meet the clients. And it's interesting that both this sale and the sale of the 4 or 5 other collage pieces a few weeks ago, both of them were going to Payson, which, as we've been doing marketing up here and kind of thinking about sales, I had created a radius of our target market. And this radius, we've been applying to our social media advertising. We've been applying it this year to our direct mail advertising. Well, Payson is outside of that range, and this year already 2 of our most significant sales have come from Payson, which has been good encouragement to me to reevaluate the radius that we're advertising to, as we realize that there are potential clients all along we're in Mogollon Rim country, in the White Mountains and Mogollon Rim in Arizona, and that we needed to expand our marketing because they will come here, even though Payson is technically closer to my Scottsdale gallery. Clients there are not interested, I guess, in descending into the 118-degree temperatures to look at artwork, and would rather drive a little further and head up this direction. And really, there just are not a lot of galleries or art available, along the rim. There are some kind of community galleries and co-op galleries, but no gallery like ours that's at a kind of a higher price point. So it'll be kind of interesting to see, and I'll keep you updated as we see the results of expanding those marketing efforts. Now, last week, it would have been a week ago, Friday, actually, a week ago today, had some clients come in who were great clients last year, our biggest collectors last year. And I'd already seen them in June as we were getting open. They'd already come in and looked at artwork, and we'd had a great conversation. And there were several pieces that they were interested in June, but was not able to close anything at that point. And then we've stayed in touch, and they are these clients are very attentive to our social media marketing efforts. They're often sharing our posts and responding, and that's a great piece and that kind of thing. But last Friday they came in again, and the comment that they made both in June and this last Friday was, we bought so much art last year that our newly remodeled home is stuffed to the gills with art. There's really no space left. But we just always love coming to the gallery and seeing what's going on. And we start talking and looking at different artists. And a few weeks ago, I have to back up a little bit. A few weeks ago, they had seen a piece by my sister, Shalise Fike, who I show up here. and had liked it and seen another piece on her website, and asked if it would be possible to get that piece up here. Uh, Actually, it was two pieces, one significant one and one smaller piece. And so we made arrangements to have those shipped up here. And I let them know that we could bring them out for them to see. Very happy to do that on Monday. They were going to be arriving on the last Friday, but they came into the gallery Friday, started looking around, and the next thing we know, there's a sculpture that they're interested in, and they have fallen absolutely in love with this painting. The one that you see on the left here, the Wildflower by my dad, which is I think a 36 by 48, another significant large piece. And so the conversation that we had was, well, I'll bring the pieces of my sister's pieces that are being shipped up here, and I'll bring this Wildflower and the sculpture out, and we'll just take a look and see what happens. And so arrangements were made. Carrie was going to be back up here. So they said, oh, Carrie hasn't seen our remodeled house. Bring her with you, bring the artwork, and we'll just see what happens. Well, what happened was all of the four pieces that we took out there ended up finding a space. Not all of them in the spaces where you see them now, but they just had fallen in love with every single one of them. And again, there was some conversation. Well, these are four pieces. What can you do for us on pricing? And again, we ended up at about a 15% discount, and we're able to close the sale. And those two sales, this one on last Saturday and this one on Monday, have already made the month of August a better month in terms of sales than the entire month of August last year, and we're only on the 7th. So, we have some high hopes that those will continue. Now, in the same vein of being excited when my team makes sales, down in Scottsdale, Mikkel, who is 20 years old, I think she's pretty delightful. But obviously she's still new in the business and still learning the ropes and the process. And she's had the opportunity this summer. It's just her and Kristen who are working in Scottsdale. And so Mikkel has had the opportunity to man the gallery, or would it be more proper to say woman the gallery, person the gallery, on her own, on a couple of days a week, and has also made some interesting sales down there. She's, there. I will say that when you're new, and I experienced this myself, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking to be working with clients. It can be at an additional level of intimidation to have other staff members listening to you and watching what you're doing, and you can feel a little bit intimidated by that. And they can tend to kind of step in and take over, and so it's been a great opportunity for her to be there on her own, running the gallery in essence a couple of days a week, even though traffic is very slow during the summer months. It's been a good time for her to kind of get her wings. Well, last Monday, she was in the gallery, got a call from a client who said, I'm in town for a few days. I just wanted to stop by the gallery and wanted to make sure you guys are open. It was, again, it's a Monday morning. A lot of galleries are closed on Mondays. And Mikkel said, we sure are. I'm here. Stop on by. And so this client stopped by. He's interested in bronze sculptures. He has a sculpture garden in Alabama, I think it is, and is looking at Gary Price's sculpture. Had purchased a couple online or through a gallery, but he was going to be in Arizona, and so thought, well, this will be a great opportunity for me to go and see some of the pieces in person. Mikkel started visiting with him. And I hope you all, when you're in Arizona next, have the opportunity to come into the gallery and meet Mikkel. I really do. I know it's a father's pride, etc. But she is really delightful. People just love her. She stands all of 5 feet 1 inches tall. And if she weighs 100 pounds, it's a lot. I mean, she's very petite. She inherits that on my mother's side of the family. And for some reason, that combination and her smile, just delights people. And so as they interact with her, they feel at ease. Um, and she's very good at conversing with them. And this gentleman who came into the gallery seemed to just really take to Mikkel. And so they started talking about the artwork and the bronze, looking at it. Well, the next thing she knew, and I get a text from her, she's kind of asking me for some logistics on working up a price for multiple pieces. And she ends up selling, and I apologize, it's very low resolution. She ends up selling him two of the puffed up prince and princess, which are these just kind of fun, whimsical bronze sculpture pieces of frogs and a 16-inch bookworm. Well, the frogs were each $5,000 and the bookworm was a couple thousand. So this is like a $13,000 sale. Her biggest sale to date. And she actually handles these kind of things. She has a very high tolerance for getting flustered and that kind of thing. So she just kind of smoothly went along. We worked through the details, and he ended up making the purchase. And again, just a very exciting experience to see my team come together and be able to make those kinds of sales happen and have great experiences. It's a confidence booster each time one of those happens, and I feel like each of those sales experiences then puts that salesperson in a position where the next time they're working with someone, they're going to be more confident. They'll have worked through the logistics, and it just kind of makes things run more smoothly. So all of this is to just kind of say again, and I've said it a number of times on the blog, I've said it here, and that is that even though things are crazy in the world and there's a lot of question marks and uncertainty about the future, people are still buying art. Let us make no mistake about that. Certainly in late February, March into April, when everything was kind of hitting the fan, so to speak, there were some question marks in my mind. Boy, what does this mean for us? Are we going to make it through this? And what I've learned here, it was a lesson we learned in 2008, 2009, is that we can't control outside circumstances, what's going on in the world, how people are reacting to that. But what we can control is that we just keep working. And if anything, we work harder and are more persistent and are providing better service and doing everything we can to create great experiences for our collectors. And if we do that, and if we keep the art coming and keep new things in front of them, we're going to see the results of that, in terms of sales and people responding, and we've seen that to be the case. So there we go. I've talked a bit about what's happening. What comments or questions might you have? What are you seeing? What would you like to know about what's been happening and how we're responding? I'd love to take any conversation or questions that you have. And if you want to throw a hand up or just unmute yourself and hop in with a question, I'll go for it. Catherine says maybe people are thinking that you can't take it with you when you go. Yes, definitely we are seeing and have heard from our clients that, they are wanting to enjoy life and art. And you're right, you can't take it with you when you go. Hopefully none of us are going anytime soon, but even so, we want to be enjoying each and every day. And like I said, that experience of coming into the gallery, being able to just leave the world behind and experience great works of art, it's been a real release. I think people have probably had just about enough of Netflix and all those kinds of things, and there's only so many books we can read, and so the visual arts is another nice way to kind of get out of yourself and get into the experience. Karen, I think I saw you've got a hand up if you want to hop in.
Yes, am I on?
Gotcha, yep.
Okay, first of all, that's absolutely great news that you are still selling. Very encouraging. I'm wondering if you have any sense, and maybe this is an unfair question, do you have any sense whether that is happening in other galleries across the country, or are you a pocket of hope, or I mean, is it a time that we can actually go out and present our work to galleries and have anybody even care to look at it?
Great questions. I do have a little bit of a sense. I have through my blog and social media outreach, I have a lot of connections now, not only all over the country, but in other parts of the world. I'm getting a sense that it's mixed. It's ups and downs. And some areas maybe seem to be doing a little better than others. But certainly, I have had many reports from both artists and from gallery owners that not only have sales continued, but that they're strengthening, and that they, like us, are seeing some legs in the market. Now, I should say, I still, even though there's positive things happening, and we've had some up months in Scottsdale and Pine Top, I do still anticipate, and I'm already seeing that, sales for 2020, when we look at the overall year at the end of the year, I suspect our sales for 2020 will be down from our 2019 sales. Especially in Scottsdale, it was just devastating to have the gallery closed during March and April. Two of our typically busiest months, and to not have, yes, we had our existing customers making purchases, but that time of year is essential for us in making new contacts and building new relationships with people who are visiting the gallery, typically from out of state. And so that's going to be a challenge. We're also seeing, even though we're seeing a lot of positive things, if I look around my gallery, I could see that there are several of our artists that we're showing in both of our galleries that I haven't generated any sales for over the last several months. It's been somewhat sporadic in terms of where the interest in sales and purchases are going. So, some of the Xanadu Gallery artists would say, and I've had conversations with them, they'd say, "Hey, it's great. You're doing great for us. Thank you." Whereas other artists who I'm showing in my gallery where we're having positive things happening, some of those artists would say, "Boy, what's going on? We haven't had, we've just had a few sales this year, and
And
things are
are
not
those
great."
weird?
And so it is still sporadic. It's hit and miss.
Yeah.
But you guys all know that I am a glass half full kind of guy, and that's how I'm choosing to kind of take my perspective on this, and that it is a matter of us working really hard to weather the storm. And my anticipation, my hope would be that as things settle down and calm down and stabilize, and the markets start coming back and travel starts happening again, that our efforts that we've put in right now, will not only have gotten us through, but will have laid the groundwork for us to come back even stronger than we were. And so that's what I'm working on, all day long, every day, every waking hour. And I wake up in the middle of the night from a dream, and my dreams have been about working in the gallery and making things happen. So it's a constant effort that we're working on.
Thank you very
And
much.
like I say, hopefully, I'm hearing reports from other parts of the country that
Good.
sales are coming back. And I've had a number of comments on blog posts and in social media of artists saying, "Yes, I'm seeing sales too. And in fact, my sales are up for this year over
Mhm.
last year." And so I think they're amidst all the challenges, there are points of hope, and points of and again, if our choice is between kind of sticking our head in the sand and waiting for this to get over, or getting out there and just really hustling, I would encourage us all to choose hustling. And I would encourage us to be talking to galleries and looking for representation. I think that's where you have some opportunities here, is that there's going to be some turnover. galleries are still working hard to survive, and they're looking for new opportunities. And I would want us to be putting our portfolios out there in the hopes that we can build some future relationships and sales ourselves. Terry, I see you've got your hand up. Let me see if I can get you. It should be asking to unmute.
You actually covered quite a bit of what I was going to say. Our gallery, the one I'm in here that's local, the sales are up this
And
month.
remind everyone where you are, Terry.
Oh, sorry, I'm in Sebastopol, California. Our July sales were up from last year, which was a surprise. And I think one of the reasons was that when you're in a smaller town, our town has about 7,000 to 10,000 people. We find that the people hold back for a month, and then the next month they're worried that you're going to go under, so they come in and support you. And we have loyal customers. So that's been a relief to know that we're important to the community.
Yeah.
And that they come in as a haven quite often during this whole thing. So I think art actually has become more important to many people than it was. They're worried that artists will go under.
Yeah.
Rightly.
Yes, exactly.
And then can I ask you a question that isn't about the galleries?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
I had a client that came a month ago and looked at a landscape, turned it down. Her husband bought her a painting instead. And then she wrote about a week ago and asked if I still had the painting. I did, but she had asked when she was here before that it didn't have any livestock, any animals in it, that she had plenty of that. And after she turned the painting down, of course, I put some cows in my
Yeah.
in my painting.
Yep. It's it always happens, right?
They can vanish without a trace. Should I offer that to her?
Yeah. You know, it is a challenge, right? I've had this happen so often where we've had a client looking for a piece, and the artist has one in the studio, and we send a photo along, and the client says, "Oh yeah, I love it. I'd be interested in seeing it." And so I let the artist know, and then the artist lets me know, "Well, that photo I sent you wasn't quite finished, and now I've made some pretty significant changes or additions." And my typical approach is that we always kind of start from the state where things are currently with a piece of artwork. In other words, if that happened to us, if it was my client and I'd contacted you and they'd seen the piece without any livestock in it, now you've added it, even though they've mentioned that, my default is to say, okay, I know you said no livestock, no animals, but since I showed you that photo, the artist has completed the piece. Here is a photo of it as it is finished now. And wouldn't you know it, there's some livestock in this piece now. And I think it turned out really fun, and I think it adds a lot to the work. In other words, I'm kind of going to spin it in a positive way. The artist has let me know that if you like the piece and would like to see the cows wander out of the scene, that can happen.
You did tell them.
And just see what happens. And many times we find that the client says, "Oh, you know what? It's great. I said that about livestock, but I didn't really mean it. I love this piece. I'll take it." In other words, I usually will not have the artist, go to extra work or try and anticipate what the client might say by doing something. Because wouldn't you know it, you'll paint those out and she'll see the piece and she'll say, "I told you I don't like livestock, but actually this piece is terrific with some cows wandering in it." And so I just don't want to deal with that. Like I say, second guessing clients is just a losing proposition. And so that would be my suggestion: is go ahead and present it to her. Here's the piece. I have worked on it some since you saw it. Here's how it is in its present state. What do you think? And certainly if you'd like the cows to disappear, I can do that.
Okay.
And just let her make the decision.
Thank you.
You bet. Kate, I think I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I recently, I was online and I found this artist in California. She actually has two galleries, one in Carmel and the other one in San Diego. And so I signed up to get her newsletter, and the gallery director in Carmel called me the next day to thank me. And we talked for a while, and I said, well, how have your sales been? And she said, no change. They've been fine. She did say some galleries around there, though, did have to close. They're
Yeah.
no longer alive. But that was so encouraging to me. People are buying art. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, again, we may still be in early days. There certainly we are preparing for the possibility that there will be challenging days ahead. Because we just don't know where things are going. But in the meantime, like I say, we're just going to keep hustling, keep making it happen. And the other, and it's I let me put it very carefully this way. I never want to see my competitors suffering or going out of business. It's not as much of an issue in Pine Top, but in Scottsdale, we're on Main Street. There are a lot of galleries there. And it is a big part of what makes our location in Scottsdale so strong is that we are in a very well-established art market with an art walk where people can come in from all over the world and see a wide variety of different kinds of art. So, the vitality of that of Main Street in Scottsdale is very important to our success, and so it is beneficial to me to see the other galleries around us succeeding and selling artwork. At the same time, we saw in Scottsdale that a good number of the galleries on Main Street were closed longer than we were. They put up signs in the window, and I believe that their thinking was, well, okay, we've got this pandemic situation, yes, and obviously we were forced to be closed and et cetera. Well, when it was coming out of that situation and the governor was allowing businesses to reopen, we were going into our summer season. And so I believe that some of the galleries were saying to themselves, what's the point of even reopening? We're going into the slow summer season anyway. We're just going to keep that CDC sign up on the door and, I don't know, take a vacation or something. I don't know what they're doing, but that was the thinking. Well, the result of that was that we had a lot of visitors to our gallery saying, hey, what's going on? We're coming out and we want to support the arts and artists, and nobody's open. And we're saying, well, we're open. We have some great art here, and we saw some sales from people who were saying to us, thank you so much for being open. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to see this artwork. And, they were having a positive experience in making purchases. And so that could have been a little bit of the boost that we saw in June, especially June, was that, in essence, there was less immediate competition. And, you could see, I would expect that when I go back to Scottsdale in October, it will be a slightly changed landscape, that there will be some galleries that maybe just were not in as strong a financial position to weather the storm, didn't have the marketing in place or a website that they could rely on to make sales, and so just were not in a position to weather that storm. And that as that happens, those galleries who stayed will see a little bit of a boost because there's a little bit less competition. Now, my hope, of course, would be that we would see other galleries come in and that we'll keep the market strong. The last thing we want to have happen in Scottsdale is have Main Street turn into something else where it's no longer an art destination. Catherine, did I see you had a comment or question for anyone else? There we go. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes, I was looking through lists of galleries online to try and sort out some to approach. And I was a bit mystified at this gallery, which was one of about 12 or 15 in the town I was focusing on. And there was the only contact form was to sign up for their newsletter. So there was no other way of contacting them at all. or to find out whether they might be looking for artists. No phone number, no email address, no submission form for artists, nothing.
Yeah, that does seem that makes me question how they're set up. One would think that a gallery would, yes, maybe they don't want artists deluging them with submissions, but one would think that they would want their customers to be able to get in contact with them somehow.
Yeah.
You know, I might look in the phone directory and see if there's a phone number listed, and just call them up and see if you can get an email address. Um, it might take a little bit of legwork. That all makes me a little bit leery of the gallery in the first place. Just seems like they may not be in a position to be selling artwork very effectively if they're making it difficult for people to get
Yeah.
in touch
Well,
with them.
It might be on purpose, mightn't it?
Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to say. But at the same time, there are certainly, I always have to be a little bit careful about being too critical of how a gallery is doing something. You know, I might look at a gallery's website or their social media presence and say, boy, this is sure not how I would do it or how I would handle the promotion and marketing. And
Yeah.
boy, why aren't they not listing a phone number or whatever? But in the end, you know, it may be, and I have seen this to be the case, that there are some galleries out there that have been around for a while, and that the owner is just very keyed into a different method of building contacts and generating sales. Maybe it's their location. Maybe it's personal contacts that the gallery owner has in the community, or something like that, the network. And that, you know, I'll end up talking to an artist who's represented by this gallery, and it turns out that that they're just selling like crazy. And so, you know, I would do a little bit of legwork, and I would still look for the opportunity to show your portfolio to them. You just might have to put some extra effort into making that happen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Beverly, I can see you've got a comment, and then I'll go to Kat. And if I'm not careful, I better cut us off here, because I do have one question that came in that I do want to get to. So let me go to Beverly, then I'll go to Kat, and then we'll get to that question. I think I have you, Beverly.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Very dimly. Let me see if I can get the
Okay,
question.
I'm in a car, but I'll try and speak loudly. I just wanted to speak about the photos. Remember, I asked a question a couple of weeks ago about the photos that the client wanted to have.
Oh, Beverly, I'm afraid I'm just not. It's just a little too distorted for me to hear what you're saying. So I'm gonna have to, Beverly, I'm gonna have to have you come back in 2 weeks from now and make the comment then, so we can hear what you're saying, or shoot me an email.
Okay, no problem.
Let me go to Kat, and then I'll go to our question that came in.
Hi.
Morning, Kat.
Hi. Yeah. So my question is really maybe for you, but also for anyone else who wanted to pipe in there. I've had trouble being inspired during this time. I really haven't created much art. Now, I've sold 3 pieces this summer in 2 different galleries, and so I need to create art, but it's been hard because the news sucks.
Yeah.
So what do you tell your artists?
The number one, and this has been my approach. I mean, you know, for me, it's a little bit of a challenge because I like to stay informed. You know, I need to know what's going on to make business decisions. But I've also found that I don't need to be that informed. So my approach has been to turn off the news. I'm only really reading the newspaper about once a week. I do a catch-up day where I kind of see what's going on. And believe me, I haven't missed anything important. You can get everything you need to get in a very brief period. But man, you're right. I totally, and I had to consciously make a decision to do this. I've always tried to keep my you know, my eye on the ball and my head out of the news cycle, because it's so much hype, and you know, they're trying to keep your attention, and so it's always the end of the world and this or that is happening. And and I think if you can just tune it out and put your focus somewhere else, that can be a huge help. I've read about a dozen books over the last 2.5 months. And man, looking into art history, or I'm just reading a lot of history as well. It helps give some perspective and kind of shift the mindset. So that would be my suggestion. Anyone else want to hop in with some thoughts about how to create during a crazy time? Anyone have tips or techniques of what you're doing? Let me go to Caroline.
Yeah, this is new to me. I can't hear myself, but definitely limit the news. I mean, you will know enough with just far less. And my most unhappy friends are news hounds.
Yeah.
And I can learn all I need to know about how horrible everything is through them. Also, I teach yoga. I do yoga. I'm very spiritual. I have a lot of spiritual practices, and I see this in a much more positive light, even though the immediate future is a challenge. And I read my history books of artists and look at the web for art by, well, I love Japanese art, and that just sends me into paroxysms of a need to create.
Oh, Caroline,
and
I
they
think you're gonna
created.
like my video, my moment in art history video that I just put out this morning.
Oh, good. I love those videos that you
Yeah,
do.
it's a
Thank you.
Japanese artist. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with that. We should be doing the same thing that our collectors are doing, right? Looking for beauty. And I'm spending a lot of time out in nature, and out hiking and running and just getting out. And man, I'll tell you, it makes just a huge difference to shift your focus and move your thoughts in a different direction. But Kat, also I would say you're not alone. I've heard this refrain repeatedly that it's easy to just get caught in a spiral with everything that's going on, and to think that there's very little positive to look forward to. And I just don't believe that's the case. I think our brightest and best days are still ahead of us, and that the more we work, the better it'll be. And the last thing I'll leave with you, Kat, and then I do have to get to the question, is I always, my mind always goes back, and I'm not an artist, but I would think this would apply for you, but it also applies for me. And that is Chuck Close's quote, who says, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just get in the studio and get to work. And I think just getting in there, and even if you're not creating a masterpiece, just getting to work and getting movement happening can be a very positive, forward moving thing. So I'd encourage us all to move in that direction. Now, let me get to our question. And this question came in, and I think I might have Rachel here, but the question was, can you please set up a demo on working with Todoist? Not a technical aspect of it, like adding tasks, more of tips for working with that effectively and efficiently as artists. And I love this question. If you've gotten to the lesson on getting organized, you know that one of the tools that I use and that I recommend is Todoist. And I'm just going to throw it over here. I've set up a sample account so we can see how it works. And I will tell you that, and this relates to what we've been talking about, that keeping myself focused by using the tasks in Todoist has been very powerful for me. It kind of keeps me on track and keeps me on task. And even just over the last several months, I've learned a few tricks in using Todoist that have helped me be more efficient. And I'll just throw a couple of them at you. Number one, the number one thing I would think about, this is basically a tool to put in everything that you have to get done, right? It's a to-do list. Well, it's not enough to just throw in all of your tasks and then start at the top and work your way to the bottom. It's also important to prioritize. And if there's something that I've been learning over the last couple of months, it's that it allows me to very easily figure out, and here's how I separate it out. I look at my tasks for the day, and I think I break them down into 3 categories. Well, actually 4 categories, but 3 main categories. Number one are things that are important and critical. In other words, important and urgent, I should say. That is that these are things that are big picture kind of items that I want to be working on to move my business forward. And they have some urgency to them in that they need to be done now. If they're on my list today, I need to get them done today. I cannot procrastinate these projects. So that's the first category. And so, for example, for me, I might have a client I might have client follow up. And that is it's an important task, and it's also urgent. And so if I hit P1, it puts a flag on it. And if I say I want to do that every weekday, that means every single day that's going to show up on my tasks. Well, where did it go? It's because I'm using a test account here. But what would happen was that would show up every single morning. That would show up first on my list with an orange flag on it. Now, second, I have items that are urgent. So, for example, I might have pay rent every third Thursday. It's something that has to get done in a timely fashion. If I don't do it, I'm going to be in trouble. But that's not important to my business. It's just something that has to get done. So that gets a P2, which is a less important flag. And so that's going to show up down the line as well. And so if I look at upcoming, it'll kind of give me a calendar of my items. And so without getting too deeply into the weeds on that, my third item of tasks is things that are important but not urgent. So maybe those are my more long-term tasks. Maybe I'm working on maybe I'm working on a show for this fall. And I know it's something that I need to give some thought to and priority to, but it doesn't have to be done today. So that shows up in the third category. And then my fourth category is just all the little stuff that the random stuff, like I need to go to the store and buy water for the gallery or something like that. It's just they're tasks. They're not critical. They're not time sensitive. They need to get done, but they show up. And so in a typical day, when I get into Todoist, I will have a good between 20 and 30 tasks that need to get done. Most of them are auto-generated. In other words, I didn't have to type them in each day. They just show up because when I've done my planning, I've put them in as either recurring tasks or I knew they were something I needed to be working on, and I figured out a time to do that, and they're going to show up on the day that I need to do them. And so, again, without getting into the too technical, I would kind of take the same approach with your work. If I were an artist, I would think that the urgent and important work that I'm doing is creating my artwork, and that should be the first thing that's showing up every day. That should be the one that I'm working on. But then when you start thinking about, kind of all the other stuff that has to support it, maybe you have a critical or an important and urgent task every Tuesday that is spend an hour on social media. And that's going to reoccurringly show up as a task for you to get done. And so I would say, again, without doing an hour-long conversation just about organizing your task, I would just encourage you to be thinking about what can I do to take the decision-making process off my plate every day. So I don't have to, as I get into the studio, I don't have to be spending any time thinking about my priorities for the day that I've already planned out ahead of time. And my way to do this is every Monday morning, I sit down for just a few minutes and I have a recurring task that reminds me to do this every Monday morning. Plan out your tasks for the week. And that's the point where I'll go in and figure out what are my priorities for this week. When do I want to get them done? What am I anticipating having happen? And set them up that way. And by doing that, that means that on Tuesday morning, I don't have to give an ounce of thought or waste a moment of my time to organizing my day. I open Todoist and it's already there. And if by using those flags that tell me how important things are, it automatically puts them in order on the list from most important to the urgent stuff to the long-term important stuff, and then to the other tasks. And so I don't even have to go in and organize what order I'm going to take things in. And that is very powerful. So that would be my suggestion to you right now. You don't have to become a taskmaster right away, but I would just start thinking about what can I do to get myself organized ahead of time. And probably for most of you, you don't have to be spending a lot of time thinking about what you're going to be doing when you're working in the studio. That's your creative time, but it's all the business tasks that you want to get organized, the marketing, the gallery research. That would be what I'd be working to organize. And I will tell you that the amazing thing about having a tool like this for me is that, and what drove me to look for something like this was that I would get paralyzed. I'd come into the gallery and I'd say, "Oh my gosh, I have so much to do today," and it would just overwhelm me, and I wouldn't end up getting to even a fraction of what I needed to get done. But by organizing it and just taking it task by task, suddenly I was getting done everything that I needed to get done because I was focused on doing it. I wasn't wasting a bunch of time trying to figure out when or where or what I should be doing. And so that would be my recommendation there. Well, we did it. I was afraid we weren't even going to get into our time, but we ended up going right through our hour. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and keep pushing. And I know that we're facing challenges and we've got to work to overcome them, but I would just highly encourage us to keep pushing forward. And I hope that seeing the positive signs around us and hearing from members of the team who are having positive experiences is encouragement to all of us to keep pushing forward. The more we push, the more activity we engage in, the better the results we're going to see over time. So I'd encourage us to keep pushing forward. I will not see you next Friday. We will have on Wednesday the online critique group. So stay tuned for that. Won't see you here next Friday. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Take care, everyone. We'll be in touch soon. Oh, well, maybe not. I'm stuck, guys. I can't leave.